I'm with Vedika from Orrick, and it's always a pleasure to talk to a chief innovation officer and somebody who has really kind of worked their way up and through and sitting right in that center spot. So Vedika, if you would, who are you, where are you, and just if you can tell us a little bit about this role, and then we're going to talk about live from Legal Week and what that all means.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hi everyone, I'm Vedika Mehera. I lead Orrick Labs at Orrick, which is essentially our skunk works. And we define it as building custom solutions for clients and then our lawyers as well. And part of that process is spending a lot of time looking at the market, what technology is out there. We also, as a firm, make small investments in startup companies. So, it's just a nice collaboration between building solutions, looking at the market, and then working really closely with our clients and lawyers to figure out what people need.
You say that so easily as if it's, it's a standard operating procedure, which of course it is with you and Wendy Curtis and the rest of the Orrick team, but there's not many firms that are making investments in startup technology, and there's not many firms that also have a lab. So let's start with the lab. How did you get started? How did it build? Because that came first, and then these investments started. So if you could just sort of share that insight and that journey with the audience, I think that would be great.
Yeah, and I actually love the story about Orrick Labs because it has evolved with the market. So when Orrick Labs began, at least it's probably been about 8 years at this point, we were actually building technology, right? We were building a product that eventually got spun out and acquired because at the time, the market, there was a gap in the market. Orrick said, we're looking for this product and we don't see it, and so we're going to hire people and set up Orrick Labs and build it. And since then, we actually, obviously I'll caveat there's stuff going on with LLMs, which is very new. But in general, we don't recommend that we build products, technology at the firm, right? So the market has exploded, as we all know. And so Orrick Labs has evolved with that, which has been really fun to watch and be a part of. But essentially now we're saying, how can we look at tools that exist in the market, because there's some amazing technology out there? How can we work really closely with vendors and startup companies to curate products, help them build their products out the way we want to, because we want to make it usable for our lawyers. And then that naturally started becoming a segue into, we're spending so much time actually working with these companies, why don't we actually put some skin in the game and start investing in them? So it's been a lovely progression from starting with, when we were building technology to then looking at tools in the market, partnering with companies, trying to get products that really fit the needs of our lawyers and our clients, to now investing in companies that we're working really closely with.
The learning curve that executive leadership goes through and then staff goes through and is pretty interesting over these last 3 to 5 plus years. The fact that you've been in the space, with such curiosity and trialing and sandboxing so much technology allows you to take advantage of what's coming down the pipe. So tell me a little bit about what you're looking at next. Like here we are at Legal Week. You're looking around. There's a lot on the floor. There's a lot around. What's most interesting to you about the change and the technologies that are staring at you or coming towards you now?
I think it's a really interesting question. Like, I think if you had asked me this a year ago, I would have had obviously a very different response. I think it's been one thing that I'm actually really taken aback by is how many new tools and companies just sort of came out of nowhere last year with generative AI. We already felt like the market was getting quite saturated, and it just got even more saturated last year. So I think it's been a challenge for us to figure out one is to sort of like narrow down, what are the things that actually we want our lawyers to be spending time on. It's so, the way we pilot tools and deploy and select technology is we get a lot of input from our lawyers, right? We're not a team that's just sitting there saying, hey, this tool, that tool. Some spaces, yes, there's, things that happen in functions of the firm that we will make those decisions, but a lot of the tools that the lawyers are using, we need their input. So we have to be really careful about how much time we can get from them to test these tools. And so we've spent a lot of time trying to narrow down, like, what are the use cases that we really want to focus on this year with all the tools that we're seeing. And for so many years, I think we've talked about things like redlining using a playbook or identifying risks or just, really augmenting lawyers in terms of the first draft. That's like one area that we've looked at a lot of products, but that's still something that's really top of mind for us to figure out how can we really find good products that are helping lawyers with this like drafting process. And we found a couple that we love. We're using DraftWise right now that we really love. And we're, a small investor in it as well. But that's something that has now evolved with generative AI to lawyers saying, when I look at a deal, there's 20 things I look at every single time. Help me find a tool that's I can train it really well on these, this first pass that I'm doing. I can create this framework, and then every time I just run a deal through it. So that request of help, like that initial first draft, has spun off in all these different use cases. And so we're tackling a bunch of specific requests like that, which is really interesting. And actually, a lot of, when we ask lawyers, what is it that you don't want to be doing? It's oftentimes this initial review, right? Because that, it's sort of table stakes in some sense. It is lawyers, you have to do that to get to really the nuanced, meaty stuff.
What's interesting about the way you're presenting this is that you sound more like an entrepreneur, right? Like a founder of a business, like the CEO, entrepreneur, founder of a business, than you do like your typical chief innovation officer or your chief technologist or your, legalist attorney, e-discovery counsel that has, found their way, into this technology space. So when did that transition happen for you where you went from lawyer and technologist to really entrepreneur and owning this process? You sound like you own it.
I love this for myself, first of all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think some of it is also culture, right? So we're a Silicon Valley-based firm. We represent thousands of startups. We work with them all the time. And so
you're influenced every day by your clients.
100%. And we say at the end of the day, we want to look like our clients. We want our clients to feel that when they have outside counsel, they're thinking like them, right? They're solving problems like them.
And Wendy Curtis also sounds like this.
Oh, 100%.
And always has.
Yeah. And our innovation team, and I think that's really part of why we're so successful. We're so, first of all, embedded with the lawyers, right? Like we spend so much time building relationships with them to say, what is it that you need? And then what do your clients need? And then we're spending so much time with our clients. So there's a really amazing collaboration process between all three of us. And that has had, I think we've seen incredible success.
There's one more piece of this, and I think we were together. We were in the same session together. I think is it your managing director or your executive director was on stage at TLTF in Miami?
Mitch.
Yes.
Our chairman, Mitch Sutcliffe. Yep.
Talk a little bit about Mitch and your chairman.
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, we love grassroots, bottom-up movements, like all of that is great, right? But at the end of the day, you really need support that's coming from the top. And Mitch is so invested in innovation, like he is right on the money in terms of what we need to be doing for our clients. And we've made it's a strategic priority for us. There's a lot of investment. We actually hired a team of 6 people, our digital and data transformation team, which sits alongside innovation to solve a whole new set of challenges that is just going to improve the business operations of the firm. We get to really focus here on innovation, and Wendy's group and us on clients and lawyers. And so we've realized that there's, first of all, so much to do still, even though we spend a lot of time and have invested a ton. And there's incredible support from the top. And, I think I've seen other firms, I've been other places, and it is dramatic what the difference is if you have that support from the top. And every town hall, like every possible meeting, every management committee meeting, every time we're talking with lawyers, there's references to innovation, how we practice, how we should all be collaborating. And so it has made a huge impact.
This is the business of law and the velocity of change within the business of law that I don't see it being reported on in the news in real time the way I am experiencing it. There are maybe a couple of dozen, leaders like yourself, and then there's another couple of dozen that are right behind you in your footsteps in a positive way. So there are achievers and strivers, and then there are seekers, but I don't see that being reported as accurately. Do you sense that as well, that the reporting is missing this velocity of change that's happening in big law?
I think so often, if I were to be very honest, I would say oftentimes the focus so much is on, great, there's technology and all these improvements. So what does that mean for the billable hour? And what does that mean for my bills? And there's so much in between that. You know, people
Absolutely.
talk about value, like how are you actually delivering value to your clients? And if we focus a little, and I'm not saying that things don't have to change, and of course, like there's these, we should keep having these conversations. But I think oftentimes the question just becomes, all right, you know, law firms are doing this, and then what does it mean for bills and hours and all of that stuff? And I just think there's so much more. It's so much more nuanced than that.
I agree completely.
And I think it would be amazing if we could start focusing more on truly, like people talk about value add pricing and billing and all of that all the time. I think if we actually focused on that conversation, you'd see a lot more of these nuances coming out and the ways in which law firms are being incredibly more creative than they've been.
There's no question about it. You know, when there's an old saying, of course, which is follow the money, right? Which is typically, you know, any kind of a white collar case. Follow the money, and you'll find you'll find the culprits, if you will. I say the same thing in terms of innovation. Show me the money. Follow the money. You show me, you know, if you show me a law firm, big, small, in between, show me a firm that's investing in people and process and technology, you know, simultaneously. I'll show you a firm that's going to get from now to next, because that's what you need to be doing. Now, they may not solve everything overnight, but this is a 10-year journey, right? It's been 8 years for you, and this is where you are. So if you needed to go to China and learn how to do business in China, first you'd need to learn how to speak the language. You couldn't just work with interpreters. You know, you could in the beginning, but I think there's so much of that analogy that works for us. You've learned a language, you and Wendy and the rest of the team. Now you're hiring more people that are fluent in this language called business, the business of law, innovation, digital landscapes, and data. You have a head start on others that I think it's really hard to catch up once you've got that kind of a head start.
And I think it's a really good point. It's been a long process, right? I think our global operations, which is now our Global Operations and Innovation Center, has been like 18, 20 years. It's been a long, you know, we've been making incremental change, just starting with like back office and operations, and over time have gotten to where we are. And so 100%, I think it takes a lot of time and dedication and commitment. I will say though, and we have this experience with lawyers, there's been so many great examples and stories where we'll talk to people, you know, at the firm, and we'll say, hey, you know, maybe here's how we should pitch this specific engagement, and we should like offer these services, and they're like, oh, maybe, you know, that sounds okay, but actually I think we'll just stick to the old way. And you sort of push a little bit, and then you do something differently, and suddenly it's like the floodgates are open, right? And now we have these people that come to us all the time. So oftentimes it's small incremental change, and then suddenly you look at it and it has amounted to so much.
Yes, that's right.
Which has been, I think, amazing for us. Again, like if we sort of look back the 5 years that I've been at Orrick, I started on a couple things, and it has just become this really expansive operation through Orrick Labs. And we are working on, you know, hundreds of projects a year. Now some are, you know, a few hours, some are a couple hundred. And we're really thoughtful about how we spend our time on that. But it went from, you know, a handful of things to now a few hundred.
Yeah. What I'm enjoying so much about our conversation is that it's very similar to the conversation I had just a little while ago with Patrick Zeller. And what I enjoyed about that conversation, which is similar here, is that you have such an enthusiasm, such an effervescence for what you're doing, a passion for what you're doing. And I think that's really what we're seeing in our space today. There's a diversity of talent that are coming from diverse places with diverse thoughts, bringing in an energy and enthusiasm. I don't doubt for a moment you put in a 10-hour day, 5 or 6 days a week. But you seem very fresh about the whole thing, and I think that's a big difference from where we were maybe 10 years ago in the space. What do you think?
It's definitely a really exciting time, and I think, you know, the quality of companies and, you know, legal tech startups that we're seeing is incredibly high. I love the vendors that I work with. We have such good relationships and such good partnership, and, you know, we spend so much time thinking. They're super thoughtful. You know, I hope we are thoughtful about how to help them with their products. And that's so much fun to then just see the lawyers being like, I love this, right? Because, you know, and the lawyers are excited. The other thing I've noticed is, you know, when we started doing this, or at least when I was at Orrick 5 years ago, the types of solutions that we were building for lawyers were, you know, they were great, and they worked, and they did a lot of useful things for clients, but they've gotten so sophisticated in the 5 years. the lawyers have seen what we can do, and their requests are getting more and more complicated, and they want to build and do all these great things for their clients. So that's been really fun, right? So you have this stuff going on in the industry that's amazing. You have the lawyers getting really excited about the things
And your clients.
exactly, that they can build for their clients, and they're pumped, and they're like invested in really delighting their clients. And I'm fortunate enough to work on a fabulous team. I love who I work with. I love the people at Orrick, and so it's been really fun.
Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed our exchange of ideas. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy day to share your thoughts and your insights with us. Have a great legal week, and I know that we'll see you on the road this year.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you so much.